Before I start telling this story, I have to say that this happens over 3.5 years when I was between the ages of 15 and 18 years old. All the people in this story have been changed for privacy reasons. I grew up in a pretty good sized town. High school grades always had between 800 and 1,000 students. The town was about 45 minutes to an hour from the second biggest city in the state, which is known for 3 rivers and many bridges. I have 2 older brothers. That means obviously I'm the youngest of 3 boys. Our mother was the general manager at my grandpa's golf course. By no means were we well off in any way, but we were far from poor. And our father was in the state police, a lieutenant at the time of everything happening. Cop Dad was hard on us when needed to, but we all 3 learned to always be respectful, no matter what, unless of course extreme situations call for not being it. I will say though that due to a very dark history, I've never had a close relationship at all with my brothers or even my parents. Even with all of that, I'll admit that this made my dad and I be slightly close, even for the very short time periods, and then we only had one thing in common, that we'd protect the ones we love at all costs, even if it meant our lives. Him with my mom, family, and I with my girlfriend and nieces and a nephew. When I was 15, I went to the downtown area as I got food and ice cream with friends. This was at a place about a half a mile from the high school football stadium. Being that we were only 15 years old, going into our 10th grade year of high school and almost 16, we all rode our bicycles to meet up. My hometown was split up into 6 wards. The restaurant was 1 to 2 miles away. I lived in the first ward. When we came back outside to leave to do something else, I realized that my bicycle was missing. As soon as the group and I checked the immediate area, I called my dad knowing that he was home from work, and he flew down to where I was. We all figured he'd be pissed at us, which he wasn't at all. All of my friends got on their bikes to go off in different directions towards their own homes, as they wanted to help look for the bike. As my dad and I were driving towards the part of the town we lived in, we saw a group of 3, 2 males, 1 female, as they walked down a side street towards the street we were on, 1.5 miles from the restaurant. The group was pushing my bike as they walked, causing me to snap to attention and to say loudly, "They have my bike." My dad stopped immediately and put the car in park in the street, and we jumped out, and I laughed inside due to seeing my dad go from usual to Cop Dad. Well, he had the girl and 1 guy stand on the wall with their faces touching it, and he slammed the guy with a bike to the ground. I grabbed the bike and put it in the bed of the truck. Since it was only 2 of us against 3, my dad told me to get in the truck so they don't see your face. I said, "Screw that," and it wasn't until years later that I came to regret that. The cops arrived and then arrested all 3 of them. Fast forward to 2.5 years later, I was 18 years old, and I was home from my freshman year of college, which was spent at a military college across the state from home, which stuff I learned during my time at the school will help out. I was out jogging at around 6 p.m. one night on the sidewalk next to the road, and that's when a car flew past me, sat at the stop sign until I passed them. Luckily, I was close to home and memorized the car's details, or as much as I could. The vehicle drove and went a lot slower this time, and I walked into the house when they were passing. I did not think anything wrong with the situation, other than someone driving fast and slowing down upon realizing that somebody was jogging. Fast forward 1 week, and I just finished up another jog, walked into the house through the front door, which leads right into the kitchen, which has a big window that looks out of the driveway, front yard, the street, and stop sign. As soon as I walked to the sink by the window to splash some cold water on my face, I heard a loud boom from outside. It sounded like an M80 exploding, and then 1 second of silence, then 3 loud booms in quick succession, which, thanks to being a hunter, I knew it was gunfire. I dropped down, crawled to the door, grabbed the baseball bat my brothers and I used before, and then ran out the door, even though I knew a bat had a 0 chance of winning against a firearm, but I was hoping that I'd surprise them nonetheless. When I got outside, they were actually driving away, and I recognized the vehicle from a week earlier that sat at the stop sign when I was out jogging. Thankfully, nobody was home at the time, since who knows where they'd be standing or what would have happened. After the police arrived and I'd given my statement, we ended up waiting. Since the town was actually big for a town, it was also small enough that a lot of people knew everyone. The town's police, my brothers, well, they all joked with me, and they asked things like, "Did you try being a hero when nobody was around?" Or would ask if I was crazy due to running outside towards gunfire without a gun. Well, 2 or 3 days had passed, and that's when we had received the call from the cops. They said that they had caught the guy who shot at the house. As it turns out, it was the same guy who stole my bike 2.5 years earlier. After finding that out, my dad and I looked at each other without saying anything. We didn't tell my mom about it being the same guy, and that they had seen me finish up and walk into the house luckily by chance. The guy had received 10 years for attempted murder with a weapon, attempted assault, but due to not a single person being injured in any way, no assault charges of any kind were charged towards them. So we went on with our lives, and I became an EMT during college working on weekends, and then I finished school. When I was 26 years old, I had stopped by the parents' house when I was in the area. I walked into the kitchen, and on the kitchen table was the town's newspaper, which the front page read something along the lines of, "Local woman missing, vehicle found abandoned and burned." As I started reading the article for a second, I almost immediately ripped the kitchen table off the frame with rage. The article said that the missing woman's boyfriend for some period of time was the same guy who had stole my bike and shot at my parents' house with me in the front window. He wasn't arrested or charged with any crime related to the missing woman at the time. I left and went back to my apartment an hour away, and I made sure I always carried a pistol with me, except of course when I was working on the ambulance. Even through all the rage I was feeling, somewhat paranoid thoughts of him maybe following me were still lingering around, even though it was very unlikely. My parents left their house for a week to stay at my grandparents' house, which was empty due to him living at the golf course. Life went on from there, and I still work as an EMT in the second biggest city in my state. The guy who shot at my house, well, he's currently in prison on charges of crimes which are not related to the murder of the lady in my hometown. My creepy experiences from the video rental store. In order for me to properly begin my story, I must start you off with a little bit of background. Let me take you back to around 1997. By the way, I'm male and I just turned 18. So, I was fresh out of high school and I was looking for work. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in college, so instead, I wanted to make some money. Luckily, my mom was friends with the manager of our local Blockbuster. Yeah, I think you guys remember those days, right? Back when you would actually go out and rent movies? Okay, I digress. The point was, I now had a job for the summertime, and the first couple of weeks were fairly routine. I learned how to work the cash register and learned about keeping the store filled with movies. Well, one afternoon, it was just myself at the cash register when a woman, I'd say in her mid-40s, walks into the store. She was about 5'3" with long brunette hair, clothing that was a mess, and some scars on her cheek. She seemed pretty normal at first, so I gave her a friendly hello and she nervously waved back. "Hello, welcome. Was there anything I could do to help you find something in particular? That's what I'm here for." She looks at me as if I was speaking another language. Finally, she says, "Oh, I'm just here to look around. Don't mind me. I won't bother you." I made sure to tell her if there was anything she needed, I could help her out. I now returned to reading the magazine I was going over. In case you're interested, it was Nintendo Power. I only remember it because I had a subscription. 10 minutes go by, and I hadn't seen any signs of this lady. I give it another 10, and I'm starting to get suspicious. Something else I noticed was I kept hearing a clicking sound, something like a disposable camera. Now, since I had to close the store soon, I take a look at the security monitor, and I could see her looking through one of the aisles. This is where she was. She'd been looking in between the shelf, and she'd been staring at me. "Excuse me, miss, but I'm about to close the store. I need you to leave." "Oh, why so soon? I was enjoying looking at you." "Wait, what did you say?" I meant the movies, not you. Sorry, I got confused for a second." "Miss, why do you have a camera with you?" "Oh, I always have it with me. I have it so I can take pictures. Don't worry about it." Eventually, I get her to leave, and I close the store. Next evening, I was working, and I mentioned the creepy lady to my boss. "Oh, yeah, she's come into this store in the past. I guess I forgot to tell you." Sorry. Next time you see her, feel free to call the police. She'd been stalking a previous employee here, and, well, she had to leave because she tried breaking into her home. So, well, just let me know. You probably don't want that happening to you, right? If that wasn't creepy enough, just wait until I get to this next part. That same evening, I was working alone, which figures as much, and I was now closing. Before leaving, I decided to head into the back alleyway to throw the trash away. That's when I started hearing footsteps approaching down the alley, and that's when I happened to look over. Yup, it's the lady from the other night. Hello? Good evening. Nice night out here, am I right?" "Yeah, it is. Would it be okay if I went into the store and spent time with you?" Sorry, ma'am, but I need to close the store soon. Sorry." What she says next still shocks me till today. "Why do you have to play so hard to get? Don't you want to get to know me better?" She then takes out a knife, which sends a chill down my spine. "You know what? I'm gonna show you why it's not a good idea to ignore me." I book it into the store, where I hit the alarm. Luckily, this back door locks itself once it's closed, and there was no way she was getting in. Officers showed up less than 10 minutes later, but she was already gone. I did make sure to give them a description, and she never did show up again to the store. But she did manage to find my home. One night, my parents and I had gone over to our neighbor's house for dinner. I just so happened to look out the window, and that's when I could see somebody going through our mailbox on our front porch. They were hard to see at first, but when our porch light turned on, you could see a woman trying to open our living room window. We now called the police, and they showed up in like 5 minutes. They find the lady hiding in my dad's shed with one of his hatchets. Yup, it was the same lady, and she found out where I lived. Thankfully, that was the last I heard from her. So, that's the story with the creepy blockbuster stalker. Oh, and before I forget to mention, there was a reason she was going through my mailbox. Inside, we found pictures of myself that were taken inside the blockbuster. I was right, she had been taking photos. Alongside it were various love notes about how she would do anything to be with me. With that, she also said she would make sure that nobody interfered with her plans. Safe to say, those plans were anything but innocent. I've since moved, but I figured I'd share the story anyways. Thanks.